All right, point 3. It is Jerod Mayo and the New England Patriots not only winning against the Buffalo Bills, but losing the #1 overall pick and their jobs in the process. Jerod Mayo fired after one season as the Pats go 4-13, and they now fall to pick number 4 in this year's NFL draft. Do you think, I'm just going to start with this. Do you think that they could have, and now they tried to, right? They benched Drake May and played Joe Milton. If they would have done what the Chiefs did, do you think the NFL would have stepped in? If they would have really just gone and said, scout team, you're out there this week?
Well, I think the bizarre thing here is the Bills didn't try at all. So, even if the Patriots had done what the Chiefs did, I'm not sure they still wouldn't have won because, look, if you are Jerod Mayo and you're saying, you know what, we're not going to let Drake May play. He's going to throw one pass, and we're going to put Joe Milton in. He's getting his first serious time, and he probably just assumed they were going to lose. There's no way we're going to win with Joe Milton playing quarterback. Joe Milton goes out there, doesn't look bad, outplays Mitchell Trubisky, who, again, another quarterback who I thought might look okay in one of those backup roles where you're thinking, if he ever wants to be a starter again, he needs to play well in this game just to get some looks, maybe get invited to a training camp. But no, Trubisky was horrible. And the Patriots, this was probably the most bizarre day in the last 5 years for them. And this is a team that got rid of Brady and fired Belichick. I mean, you go from thinking you have the #1 pick, you're starting a rookie quarterback who just doesn't play, and then it all ends with you not having #1 pick and the head coach gets fired. So, I mean, this was a whirlwind day for Patriots fans.
It really was. And I do think the NFL probably would have stepped in if they went full scout team for whatever, competition committee, trying to protect the shield sort of stuff. But they should have, truthfully. I mean, going from #1 to #4.
How do you prevent that, Brenner? What would, if you're the competition committee and you're making rule changes in March?
I mean, I think they would just get fined. I think it would just be they would take away draft picks for. I think they can do that, right? Just based off of arbitrary. I mean, it would be like a lawsuit and whatnot. But I think there would have been some sort of litigation to that matter. That being said, #1 to #4 is basically the difference is they're probably still going to draft the same guy they were going to draft. It's just they're not going to trade back now. They're not going to get the haul they would have at the #1 overall pick for someone wanting to go up, get one of the quarterbacks, and the picks that come with that when that's the case. But let's move on to Jerod Mayo a little bit and talk about him getting fired. To me, I know there's conflicting opinions on this. My take was they know now after going 4-13, but seeing how good Drake May is, they know they can, I don't want to say upgrade, but they can get a name at the head coaching position. Last offseason, with how bad they were and where they were drafting and how little talent was on that roster, you weren't getting a name, right? You weren't getting a top-end talent. That's why you promote Jerod Mayo from within. You weren't getting a guy in there who has either had a track record of proven success or is one of the hot names on the topic. They just weren't going to get that guy. Now you can. And all signs sort of point to Mike Vrabel being that guy who will be probably the next Patriots head coach. And obviously, coach of the year, a guy who's had proven track record of outperforming his talent, had the #1 seed the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl back 2021. So there's a lot to like about where they're at now as opposed to where they were last year. And so it's not necessarily a moratorium on Jerod Mayo. It's not necessarily passing big judgment on him, but I don't think he was any great shakes either. He had his issues with the locker room. He had called his run defense soft. He said, you'll have to, you said it, I didn't, about his OC when he asked about not using Drake May in the running game. So there were issues there, and now they can just do better, is my thinking about where the Patriots are making this move.
It's interesting, though, because I feel like Jerod Mayo probably almost feels backstabbed here because remember when he got hired, there was he had the succession plan written into his contract to take over for Belichick. So if you're Mayo, you're thinking, I'm waiting for Belichick to retire or get fired so I can become the head coach and be here indefinitely and indefinitely last exactly one season. But I think the point you just made is a good one. You can't call out your team all year. This isn't a player calling out another player in the locker room. Once you're the head coach, you got to be careful about what you say, which kind of ironic that Belichick was more careful than any head coach about what he says in public. And so when you're throwing your team under the bus, that's how you lose your locker room. And you look at the Patriots, they weren't absolutely horrible this year. I mean, 4-13, they had a couple overtime losses. This team could have won 7 or 8 games. But I do think that, like you just said, you have Drake May, you have what looks like a franchise quarterback. So this becomes a juicy gig. And all you have to do is figure out how to compete with the Bills, because the AFC East isn't a great division. So even if you're playing for second place, that can still get you in the wild card round. So I think the Patriots opening will be attractive.
That is a good point, because I do think if you're just looking at the rest of the division, they're on the downslide. The Jets, the Dolphins, Bills obviously up here, but they're paying so much to some of the pieces on that roster that it's going to be difficult for them to maintain that. Obviously, Josh Allen's great, but that roster is going to have difficulty cobbling together over the years. And it's not like they've drafted amazingly in recent years. So there is opportunity to be had there if Mike Vrabel wants to come back to the NFL. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't think it's a terrible move from the Patriots perspective, and I truly think they will be getting one of the bigger names on the market.